All right. Well, we're now live. Sam turned his camera off.
By accident.
Oh no, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm just picking. All right. Well, everybody, we're multi-streaming tonight. We're actually Facebook Live and on YouTube. This is the first time StreamYard, the platform that we use, is actually this is something new that they are allowing to do. So we may have a good audience tonight. So I'll be watching the live chat the best I can. Talk with our guests. We have a guest tonight, Mr. Jimmy Barr, and we're going to get him in here very shortly. So if you guys are tuned in and watching, I've had this shared in several groups and on a few pages. So feel free to share away. And yeah, our viewers are jumping up there right now. So it did just say 17. It dropped back down to 12 at the moment. So all right, we got Rick. All right, Jimmy's waiting to be in here. We have a John, Audrey, Zach, a Jamie, Denzel Woodward. All right, and I know there's several others. So as we get into our interview, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have questions, please put your questions in all caps. It'll help me see it. I'm sure Nikki, you'll probably be watching the live chat too. I might.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just in case I might miss something. I mean, I'm
Okay.
So that's why I have my glasses on right now because I can't see that close with my glasses. I still have to get the eye
What'd you do?
doctor. I can see far away, but I can. So I don't know. I'm just getting old, I guess. I don't.
I hear you.
Bigfoot me doc. Okay, there. That is Mr. Frank Stroud with us tonight. Awesome. Dinobot is here, aka Reed Norman. So, all right. Well, just a quick reminder. Coming up here in a couple of weeks, October 26th is the first annual Bigfoot Festival in Westminster, South Carolina. I'm very excited about that. I know several other folks are. And again, that's coming up in just a couple of weeks here. And again, that is.
Sorry.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. We had some free advertising there. Nikki's playing commercials over there.
Oops.
All right. And tonight, yeah, of course, for those who know, Miss Nikki Cologne. And then also we got Mr. Sam Deloach, which will be helping on the interview here. And then we may get into some other discussions tonight. So, anything's possible. That's usually how we roll here. So with no further delay, everybody please welcome Mr. Jimmy Barr. Jimmy, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you guys hear me pretty well?
Oh, yeah. Sounds loud and clear.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Hey,
how you guys doing?
Is that a spider web? Is that a spider web behind you?
No, that's my enclosure to my pool.
Oh wow!
I thought you were had some Spider-Man stuff on.
Yeah.
No,
it did look like a spider, on a Halloween thing.
Yeah, not an enclosure, but a pool. Enclosure to the pool. So, that's a lot of people have them down here in Florida.
Now, do you have to have that on there so Fred doesn't get in there?
No. Most of the people here in our in our subdivision have them. We live in a gated community. It's more of a retirement kind of community. When we bought this house in June of last year, the realtors told us this community is for nearly weds or nearly deads or newlyweds. So we're in the middle. We're in the middle.
Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law just moved down to Florida. I think they're what's the name of that area? It's kind of a well-known area. I want to say it begins with begins with an M. Some known beach area. I can't remember the name of it, but
there's Miami, maybe. Miami. Gosh.
No, not my.
Manatee.
Yeah, not Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of it right off here.
There's a ton of beaches down here.
But I want to make oh yeah, I'm sure. Now, for those who don't know, when I mentioned about talking about keeping Fred out, I watched the video on your profile earlier.
Yeah.
The alligator.
Nice.
you named Fred.
Yeah,
Oh.
Fred's pretty cool. He's pretty chill. He's he can be completely in the middle of the lake, and I'll just yell at him, Fred, and he will just beeline. He'll beeline to me just like he did in that video when you seen him. I did that. That was I think last Thursday. I think I'm not sure when I did that, but and when he hears me, my wife and kids can be out there, and he doesn't do that. But when I call him, he just kind of comes up here. We inadvertently fed him when we bought the house. We were feeding turtles, because in that video you can see that the lake is 15 feet away from my pool.
Oh.
Right.
And
Yeah,
we were out there
I
feeding.
thought that was pretty cool.
We were out there feeding turtles, and then just all of a sudden an alligator swam up. And so, me being from Illinois, the only cool thing we get to see on a daily basis is squirrels and rabbits. I thought it was cool, so I chucked a piece of bread out there to him, and he just gobbled it up, and he's been here ever since.
Watch,
Yep.
yeah, you'll never get rid of him especially if you throw some raw chicken or something out there. Or
Yeah, I'm not gonna feed him any meat. If I feed him anything, it'll be bread.
Yeah,
I don't want him craving me.
Yeah, you don't want to habituate him too much.
Yeah,
he'll get used to you.
He's already part of the family. It feels like.
No, that's cool. Yeah, but I was watching that video, and it's funny when you walk around the pool and you mentioned, "Let's go see if Fred's here." I had a feeling that's what you were talking about, was an alligator, because I've heard other people name alligators that come around their properties, other names, but I thought that was pretty interesting though.
Yeah.
The name of the area I was thinking about, my father on the chat mentioned it. It's Fort, Florida.
Okay, yeah. That's on the Gulf side. I'm on the East Coast, and I believe that's on the Gulf Coast.
Okay, yeah, that's where my sister and brother-in-law moved to. My brother's got a job down there, down in the area somewhere. So, okay. Now, from what I understand, you're originally from the state of Illinois. Is that correct?
That is correct. I lived in Illinois most of my life. Early on in my childhood, when I was, just young boy, when I lived with my mother, she was kind of like a gypsy. We bounced around a lot, so I've lived in several states for a short amount of times, but mainly grew up in Illinois. I was born on Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri military base, but grew up in Illinois for most of my life. Moved to Georgia 2 years ago. Lived there for 2 years in Marietta, Georgia. And then last June we moved here. Every year we would go to Florida when we lived in Illinois for a vacation. And we just weren't in Florida yet. So finally we decided, you know what, let's go where we vacate. So we're there. So now finding a new place to have a vacation. Yeah. It's a good problem to have, looking for another place to have a vacation.
Right. Well, that's what you mentioned military. That's, you moved around. I'm assuming, are you married right now, or?
No. My father was. My father was in three different branches of military. I was born on a military base in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and that's where my family's from, Illinois.
Oh, okay. One other gentleman here, I know he's watching, Mr. Zach Sterick. He's a researcher out of Southern Illinois. So, he's on the live chat. I'm sure he'll be interacting. So, what was the area in Illinois you were at? You said?
I lived in Atlanta, Illinois. Atlanta, Illinois is about 3 hours south of Chicago and 3 hours north of St. Louis, right there on 66. Right there in the heart of Central Illinois.
Okay.
Town of 1,300 people.
Wow. Yeah. We lost. All right. He'll probably be back in here in a little bit. So, now you spent some time in Tennessee. And you also had a Bigfoot encounter there. Yeah. But,
it wasn't my first encounter. But it wasn't my first encounter. But it's the recent one. I had one when I was a child. When like I said, my mom bounced around a lot with us, and I had an encounter with 2 different Sasquatch in the same evening in North Carolina. I've been on Sasquatch Chronicles, so if you guys are familiar with the podcast,
Wes Germer.
I'm on episode 337, Childhood Encounters. And so, I mean, I've already had experience with the subject. But I was going to Tennessee. I'll give you a quick background on me, just really quick, and I'll make it really quick so I don't bore you guys to death. I'm 47, father. I've got a 24-year-old that's in the military, a 12-year-old, a 7-year-old, and we just had a baby girl, first one on my father's side in 3 generations, in August 8th.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Thank you. We are super excited because we didn't think we were going to be able to have another child. In fact, early December, I traded my minivan in for a pickup truck. And then at the end of December, on our way home from Illinois for Christmas, we found out we were pregnant. And I was like, damn it. I just traded in the minivan. But you know what? I got a great big truck. There's plenty of room. And I got a beautiful little girl. So I couldn't be much happier. We're super excited and blessed. But
awesome.
if you want to trade me your truck, I got a minivan.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful black Dodge Ram.
I'm sorry,
2019.
Oh, nice. I get to drive one of those for work, but
Yeah. But I for about the last 25 years, I've been in a band. I've been lead singer in a bands. And here recently, when I moved to Georgia, I started writing and recording my own stuff. And there's this awards show called the Josie Music Awards, the JMAs. And I had submitted one of my songs in them there earlier this year, and it was nominated for Modern Country Song of the Year. There was over 24,000 songs submitted, and people in the music industry kind of recognized, my song. And so that's why I was headed to Tennessee. It was tomorrow it'll be 3 weeks since I had the encounter. But I was driving up. I lived in Marietta, Georgia. It's right there by Atlanta, and there was no way in hell I was going to drive through Atlanta, Georgia to Tennessee. So I just drove up 95 north and went through Florida and Georgia, North Carolina into Tennessee. I was on Interstate 40, and I been driving for about 11 hours. I had about an hour to go before checking in to my hotel. So when I got off of Interstate 40 to take Foothills Parkway into Gatlinburg, there's these little pull-off spots. They're sceneries. They're called overlooks on Foothills Parkway. So you can pull over off to the right, and you've got this great big scenery, beautiful valley down below. And then behind you is, the rest of the mountain going up on an incline. I saw the scenery instantly. I pulled off. The subject's always in the back of my mind. But I pulled off. Driving through it. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is a beautiful place. I'm from Illinois, so seeing mountains and stuff like that, I soak it all in. I love it. I just can't stand the view of corn and beans for miles and miles and miles. But mountains and the ocean. Mountains and ocean, I just can't get enough of it. So I stopped and I got out of my truck. I walked over to the sidewalk, and there was 150, 200 foot drop straight down, no railing at the sidewalk, looking over the valley. And I'm not a guy that's in the mountains all that much at all. Actually, if I'm driving through them, it's the only time I'm in them. And my mind, in my mind, I was thinking, being a singer for 25 years, lead singer, I've got some really, really, really good lungs. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to go ahead, knowing that nothing's going to happen, I'm going to go ahead and do one of them silly things that Matt Moneymaker does, on finding Bigfoot, and so I faced the valley, and, sure, I was wanting something to happen, but I wasn't expecting anything to happen. And honestly, I just wanted to hear the echo, and I did one of his really, really loud. And after about 4 or 5 seconds, I'm thinking, you dork, there's no mountains or anything for it to echo back. I just yelled into a valley way down low. And then about as I'm finishing that thought, I got yelled at from behind, going up the incline. And I don't know what a caveman sounds like. I don't know. It's the only way I can describe it is it wasn't a growl, like people report. It wasn't a whoop. It was a humanoid, but much deeper. And being a vocalist, one thing that I wasn't ready for it because I didn't expect it to happen. I didn't have my phone out. It wasn't going to happen. It was in my mind. This would be kind of cool place to do it. See what happens. But I didn't expect it. But the tone that it had, it was very gritty. It was very deep, but it was an unnatural tone because when you sing or when you talk, it doesn't matter. If you sing a high note, there's just a high note unless you change pitches and goes gradually down. If you sing a medium note, flat note, a low note, you're getting one tone. But in that growl, yell, there was two tones coming from the same voice. There was that low and a little bit of a higher in the same. It's not something a human can do. I've heard monks, they say certain monks in Tibet can use, get their use their, because you got a singing voice and you have a talking voice on your vocal cords, and certain monks in Tibet are supposed to be able to, after years and years and years of training, be able to get multiple tones. I've listened to them, and most of the tones that you hear are the low, and they're rattling their vocal cords so low that they're vibrating, and the vibration of their vocal cords is making an extra tone. They're not actually hitting, singing, and so it was very unnatural. So instantly, I was chill. I was chills. I was not ready for that. I got to call my wife. So I got on my wife, video called her, showed her the scenery, started screaming, whooping, and just being stupid. I'd never done them before. I've heard them. I'm a great mimicker of people's voices and pitches and tones, but it's not humanly possible to get as low and as loud and have two different tones in the same yell. But when I turned around and faced the direction, was doing my calls, I got nothing. It was a one-time deal. I took it as that was pretty stupid. This is my spot, move along. And that's how I took it. But I was talking to my wife on the phone, and she's like, you have an award show to get to. You got to check into your hotel. I know you. Don't go up there. You're alone. I'm like, babe, I'm in my flip-flops. I'm not going to scale that mountain, and she's like, okay. And, I told her that I wouldn't. And then she got off the phone, and I changed my shoes. And
that's great. I changed my shoes because I was going down the mountain.
Well, when you first come off, because I'm heading west, I'm coming from the east, so it's the way the overlooks. I don't know if you guys have been on them or not, but the way the overlook pull-offs, they're the same concept as getting off at a rest area. You get off on one end and you get back on the interstate at the other end. But these overlooks, are only enough room for 10 or 12 cars. They're not very long. So and it's a 2-lane road, one lane going this way, one lane going that way, and it's hugging the mountain. And so when you first pull off, I pulled all the way up to where I could about merge back on to Foothills Parkway. And I was at the overlook number 4 on Foothills Parkway, which is the very first one when you're heading east off of exit 40, Interstate 40, and it's exit 443. It's over there by Cosby. Cosby's more to the east, I believe. But I pulled up to the top of the overlook to where I was almost ready to pull back on to Foothills. in that spot where it gets back onto foothills, I figured I would because I went up. I went up there because it was the path of least resistance. It was easier for me to go up. Over where I heard the yell, it was way, way, way steep. And so my thought process was, I'm going to kick myself in the ass if I don't even go up there. I'm not going to be here. It's not a place I'm at every day. So I changed my shoes. I got this little machete thing. It's pretty wicked. I was just using it to make myself feel better. I didn't use it at all. I just had it. It was more of a backup plan, but backup plan. But I made my way up. My intentions were to go way up, above where I heard the sound, cut back east, and come back down too. So, because when you're going up a hill, it seems like it's much easier to lose things when you're looking up than it is when you're at the top of a hill looking down. And it didn't have anywhere to go if it was going to go down, but it did into the road, and then that 150, 200 foot drop cliff. That was just my quick think through whether it was a great idea or not. Going alone, it wasn't a good idea, but I just felt like I had to because I wasn't going to get an opportunity, and I knew I'd kick myself if I didn't. So I made my way up. Go ahead. If you've got questions, and it doesn't matter what type of questions. Really, it does. There's no question. Yeah. I'm an open book. There's no weird question. If you listeners got questions, that is absolutely fine. I'm an open book, man. So I'm not easily offended. So if you get anytime you got questions, go for it.
Yeah, it's regarding the situation on the live chat here. We do have a question here. It's actually a multiple question. Five Hazel says, "Did you hear any trees snapping?
No.
And then did you smell anything? And how close were they? Did you see it?"
I did not see it. Right. I didn't hear any tree snaps. I didn't smell anything, and I did not see it. I seen where I was certain it came from. And then when this is all said and done, I can send you a screenshot from Google Earth where I dropped a pin from where I heard it come from. So that'll give you more of an idea of exactly where it was and where I was. It wasn't really that far. I bet from my truck to where I heard it might have been 40 yards, 50 yards max, because I went across the street, and then as I started making my way up, like I said, my thought process was to go way up above it, cut back east, and come down to where I thought I heard it. But when I got about 40 yards up, it wasn't a voice in my head. It wasn't a slow feeling. It was a instantaneous, my intuition or sixth sense or whatever you want to call it said, do not take another step forward. Do not go another step up. And I listened to that. I tend to listen to those. I don't just, whatever. I don't know what this is about, whatever. So I didn't. Then my thought processes was, okay, well, maybe I'll head the stupid thought process, but I was up there. So my thought process was, okay, well, don't go any higher, but, head back east, head back to the direction where I heard it. I got probably 10, 15 yards max in that direction. And the same thing happened. Don't take another step forward. Just don't. It wasn't a voice in my head. It wasn't, it wasn't mind speak or any of that kind of stuff. It was just my instinct said, do not go any farther. So I didn't go any farther. But what I started to do, I had to make my way back the way I came. Because of the path of least resistance. I did not want to have to try to fall onto the road. And it is, you fall right into the road, and I'm in traffic. If I land wrong, I'm in the road and I'm in traffic. I wanted to go in the way I came out. or out the way I came
Right.
in. But while I'm walking up there and I get to where I don't go any farther to the up, and then I go to my east. I'm not looking at the ground. You know, I'm scanning. I'm scanning. You know, but my eyes and my mind aren't typical. Like, for instance, if I'm looking at a tree and 10 other people are looking at this tree, what they're looking at is there's a tree. It's got tree branches and it's got some leaves on it. My mind works a little different. My mind says, okay, yeah, it's got all that, but nobody's seeing the lizard. Nobody's seeing the bird at the top. I'm looking at things that don't belong. My mind kind of processes things a little different. When I'm looking at scenery, when I'm outside, I'm looking at things that don't belong. I see everything, but I'm able to see the trees and the forest and, you know, and other stuff, you know, if that makes any sense. I'm very dialed in.
Oh yeah.
So on my way back, going the same way I came, and I'm not a mountains guy. I'm not a woods guy. I love the woods. I love the mountains. I would love to spend time out there. I'm just a city guy. I'm, you know, a small town guy, a town of 1,300 people surrounded by corns and beans. That's my jungle. That's my woods. You know, that's where I grew up in. You know, if I could be in the woods, I would love to. If you ever go out Bigfoot hunting or you're out hunting and you see me in the woods, don't ignore me. I'm probably lost. Come over and grab me and take me back to safety. Yeah, is what I'm getting at, you know. But I'm sure I'd be fine. But my point is, I'm not out there that hardly at all. But you know, on my way back, I started, you know, there's big trees that are falling down, covered in leaves, branches covered in leaves. So there's hundreds of years of leaf litter on the ground, you know, 4 or 5 inches thick of leaves that I'm walking on. But then I started noticing that there are plate-sized rocks that are about 2-3 inches thick and about the size of dinner plates, 10, 15-pound rocks. A couple of them were cantaloupe size. These rocks are on top of the leaves. Everything else is covered by the leaves. These rocks did not have moss on them. These rocks did not have dirt on them. These rocks did not have mud on them. These rocks were on top of leaves, and there were impressions from the rocks being on the leaves. If you're following what I'm saying, everything else is buried in leaves. These rocks, if they had been there for any period of time, 4 or 5 days, should be buried in leaves. But there were about 10 or 12 rocks that were plate size on top of these leaves, and most of the rocks that I had found in this location heading back to the way I went up, they were behind the base of trees. So as if I were to stand behind the tree on the hill, I would have to look around the tree to see the road.
So
does that make sense?
It's definitely safe to say. Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely safe to say that they were placed there or dropped there, perhaps by something. Or
yes. Like I said, there were 10 or 12 of them, and recently, I know that those things are big and strong, and I know they have the capability to probably tip over my truck. I just don't. In my mind, in my heart, I don't see them carrying around 10 or 12 rocks at the same time. My thought process is this place is frequent. It's frequently visited because there are, and recent, because there were so many, I say so many, but there were 10 or 12 of these big rocks, and I picked one up and carried it with me for a little bit. One of them was about the size of a cantaloupe. It was probably 20 pounds. Not a lick of mud on it. It was on top of the leaves. You know, if it was buried in the leaves, there should be mud on the bottom of it. But they were all on top of they were all on top of the leaves. There wasn't even leaves blown up against them, is my point. It's a place was frequented, in my opinion. The place was regularly frequented. And I had to, I couldn't just not say anything. I reached out to, you know, quite a few people, and very few people got back to me about it. You know, I'm not from there. I told my wife, I'm like, you know, we live pretty good, but we still live paycheck to paycheck. And
Right.
and I told her, I'm like, I may end up just going back up there and getting in my truck and spending a couple nights in my truck on that overlook. I just, after my encounters
right here on the
as a
live
child,
chat, Dare.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if you. I don't when I share them on the screen. I don't know if you do you see the comments I share on the screen on your phone? I don't know if you can see them or not.
Yeah, or they could have broken
Daryl
loose from above and rolled down the mountain.
Right. Okay.
I would
I
think. It's possible, but I would think if these rocks were going to be rolling down the mountain, they'd have a considerable amount of dirt on them, and these rocks had no dirt on them. They were on top. They almost look like a rock that you would have out in front of your yard in landscaping. You know how clean it is on top.
Right.
That's how they appeared. And the one I picked up, it was wet underneath from the leaves that it was laying on. There was no dirt or mud on it.
And Harold mentions right here, if the rocks had rolled down the hill, they should have dirt on them or something. They would have scuffling or some kind of debris markings or something on them.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
When I looked, I mean, I use more common sense. I don't rush to judge or quick to speculate. I run through the gauntlet of what could be, how did it get here, look around. There is no roll marks. There is no disruption of a small landslide or whatnot. But it wasn't like that. They should have dirt on them. They should, like I said, if they had been there for any amount of time, there should have been some kind of dirt and mud on them or moss. From being in that area. A lot of the trees had moss on them, the ones that were laying down.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was an indication to me, whether I'm right or wrong, that this place is frequented often or more than just once and recent. And I just got yelled at by one. So that's what happened, and I wanted to let somebody know that was in the area. But like I said, I may end up going back next week or in a couple of weeks. I get paid every 2 weeks, and I get paid next week. I may end up going back and, like I said, staying in my truck. And because before, when I went and I did that yell, I knew nothing was going to happen. I wasn't expecting anything, and then I didn't have my phone out. It wasn't. It's just. I in my heart, I knew nothing was going to happen. I just wanted to do it, and I felt stupid doing it until I got yelled at, and then I was like, "That sucks," because if I would have had a recording, that would have been amazing. I won't forget the yell, because the yell was, like I said, it had dual tones in the same yell, which isn't normal. It's not a normal thing.
I know your area, the area you're speaking of very, very well. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I was just about to say so.
So I just live. Okay. Yeah. So I just live probably an hour, maybe 45 minutes to an hour north of where.
Actually, I looked up the area. You're an hour and 27 minutes from where he had his situation. Yeah, I looked it up earlier when he was talking to me. That's the first thing I thought.
Riding with me, you're.
But was you?
Yeah. So I mean, I know that area very well. Plus, my uncle Dave has a cabin right there in Cosby.
That's cool.
Yeah, that area is. I mean, you're looking at that's the Smoky Mountains. I mean, you're basically in the Smoky Mountains, and where you were coming down I-40 out of North Carolina, I mean, you saw it yourself. You're in some high mountains up there.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped. It's not a view that I get to see every day, and I really wanted to take it in.
Sure.
After that happened, I went to the next overlook is 3, the next one's 2, the next one's 1. The 3 is on the right-hand side of the road, 2 and 1 are on the left-hand side of the road. I stopped at 3 and 2 just to yell again, just to see, okay, maybe, it was dumb of me. It was one of those one-time deals. Nothing happened, but I still,
Sure.
I took those sceneries in. It was beautiful. And it was the main reason I stopped. I mean, in my back of my mind, I was like, this would be kind of a cool place to try a yell. But, I didn't know what to yell. So I just did one of those goofy Matt Moneymaker yells. That's what happened.
Sure. Yeah. And I would, yeah, I mean, if you've got the time and expenses to go back up there and do some follow up, I'd definitely do it. We're going to do some follow up tomorrow on some stuff that happened to us. I think it was a coyote, but I mean, it's same thing like what you had explained. I did a yell, kind of like Matt Moneymaker does, and then something yelled back. It sounded just like me, but after the second yell that we did a little bit farther down the ridge was definitely coyotes. So that's why I was like, yeah, it could be a coyote doing that. But I don't know. I didn't see it. I heard it. What I thought it was, but yeah, if it's low and guttural like that, like you said, we had that happen to us in Harlan, and you kind of know it. Me and Michael Cook had it happen to us, and it goes through your body. Is that kind of how it felt to you?
No, I didn't. There was no, I didn't feel no vibration, but it was, I'm trying to figure out how to word this to where it's not taken out of
almost
context.
like, but it kind of like it goes like it's like you said, it's something you've never heard. It's like very loud. It just kind of goes through you. You're like, what?
It was very, it was loud. I'm not going to say, okay, I will say this. I cannot hit a low note as loud as it did. It takes a lot of air to make low notes, low frequency.
Right.
You got to move a lot of air to be really loud. There's no way I could ever even come close to the volume it did at the lower frequency that it did. But it sounds ridiculous. I'm just going off by movies in Hollywood, where you hear cavemen, kind of thing. In my mind, it sounded like if a caveman was to, just go, but much lower. And it had, it kind of had a ticked off tone. I'm in pretty good shape. But I wouldn't even think twice about.
Yeah, I don't see a coyote doing
challenging it.
I don't.
No.
Yeah, I don't see a coyote doing something like that at all. Not that low, like you're talking about. I mean, you can. There's just no way. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard bears, and it wasn't a bear noise. It was a humanoid noise. That's the only way I can think of it. It sounded like it sounded. I don't know what a caveman sounds like, but if that's what a caveman sounds like, I would say that was a damn caveman up there. There was no vowels to it. There were no syllables to it. It was just with really low frequency and a medium frequency at the same time in the same voice. Like I woke it up and it got mad and it was like, I hear you, move along. So like I said, I don't know what to. I know. I've heard coyotes. When a coyote, I've heard cougar. I've heard bobcats on YouTube. I've never heard one in real life, but I don't foresee that being a canine. A feline. Noise, or canine for that matter. I've got a 110-pound German Shepherd, and I know the growls that they make. To me, I don't think it was canine either. I'm 99.9% what I know what it was. No human's going to make that noise unassisted without any kind of digital software or something. And then they're going to need power. They're going to need all of that stuff that tramps up a mountain, just to maybe get one over on a passing person. I didn't pass any cars, any trucks, anything up that mountain that were parked where anybody could be. You Google Earth that area and that overlook, and there is nothing behind that hill but a valley at the bottom of that mountain and then a bigger mountain behind it.
Yeah, that's all there is up there. Just all mountains.
Yeah.
From where you turned off 40, it's all mountains.
Yeah. And so I just had to reach out to somebody because, okay, I wanted to reach out to let people know, but I also wanted to reach out to let somebody know that maybe in that area that if I do go back and they're interested in going, I don't want to be alone. I'm not a mountain guy.
Right.
Caveman auditioning for a death metal band. Nice. I was in hair metal band. I was in hair metal bands. I grew up in the 80s, man. I grew up with the Skid Row and the Motley Crue stuff.
There
The
you
last
go.
big band.
Yeah.
There you go.
The last big band I was in was a Poison tribute band, and I was the Bret Michaels of the band. So,
wow.
The band I was in was called Falling Angel. It was after one of Poison's big hits. And yeah, I used to have the hair up until about 7 years ago. I got pretty sick, had a health scare. Antibiotics that I had injected into my arm went straight to my heart. I had a PICC line that went straight to my heart, and it was 2 different kind of antibiotics, 5 injections a day, for 7 weeks. And it was pretty harsh between the nerves and the nerves and stress and this medicine. The beautiful hair that I had fell out. So, it happens.
Well, I've seen looking according to your Facebook profiles, that's why you look different from your profiles, because I saw your profiles. You got the long hair, so
yeah, that was my band
I think
days.
you did. Hold on. Yeah.
So when you went up to the area where you thought you heard these yells, did you not see like maybe any paths or anything where you might have tried to make a quick getaway of any creature, not just a Bigfoot, but of any creature?
I thought that I had seen, and I'm sure, not that I thought, I know I've seen a couple smaller animal paths, or whatnot, game trails, if that's what you want to call it, but nothing of sort of size. I know that when I got to a certain spot and it told me to not go any farther, when I looked up there, it looked like there were, spots where there was a structure where something could be behind it if it wanted to be. But, it could have been behind any of those big trees if it wanted to be. A lot of times your mind is thinking, okay, maybe there's one behind it, or go just a little farther because that would be a great place to bed down or something. You don't want to reach too far. It could have just been the root ball of a tree that fell up the hill. You know what I mean? But there were spots that, I looked kind of shady, and I don't know if those spots that looked kind of shady were what told me, hey, don't go any farther, man. It's not a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. Man, that's interesting. And yes, Harold, he's very close to where the rock slides happen.
Trying to get this phone figured out, holding it.
Now, this is a stupid question. You're in Florida. How
No,
far
there ain't no
is?
Stupid question.
Okay. Well, how far are you from South Carolina? It's probably around 7-8 hours, maybe.
South. Yeah. Well, it takes about. No, it takes about. Damn it! It took me about 11 and a half hours to get from where I live to the Tennessee Mountain Lodge, which is right there in, I guess, Gatlinburg. So
okay.
Maybe 9 hours.
Okay.
Because Florida's distance. It takes me about 3.5, 4 hours, I think, to get out of Florida, and then I got to go all the way through Georgia. Georgia's not fun. It's just straight north south.
He was in Gatlinburg where the Tennessee Bigfoot conference was.
Yeah, when I lived in Marietta, I used. when I lived in Marietta, Georgia, I used to go up to the Expedition Bigfoot all the time and meet with Dave. And he had, in fact, on his first town hall, he had me there, talk about my encounter and tell my encounter, which was super cool. It was super. It's not one of those. It's not one of those things that I get joy and pleasure talking about. Because when I talk about my encounter, all the emotions and all the feelings that I get are from the exact moment I was there. So the feelings and the emotions that come out are not the emotions of a 40-year-old man. They're the emotions of a 6 or 7-year-old boy. So my body starts trembling from my head to my toes. On the inside out, my voice gets really shaky, and it's hard to hold back the emotion sometimes. After I had told my encounter at that Expedition Bigfoot for Dave at the town hall, I had a film crew contact me. They were the ones that did Terror in the Woods. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that series, Terror in the Woods.
Oh yeah, I've seen the episode with the Night Stalkers. They were speakers at one of my.
Yep, and they were also on Terror in the Woods. It was on the Discovery Channel, I believe. Well, the company and the same producers got a hold of me, and I flew to Pennsylvania late last year, and they did an interview, and they're going to be doing a reenactment on a new series that's coming out. Same company, same Wild Dream Films that did Terror in the Woods, but because they're moving to the Travel Channel, they have to change the name of the show. It's going to be called These Woods Are Haunted, and that's going to be coming out this fall. The new series is going to be coming out later this fall. It was supposed to come out early September, but Michael Sheehan, one of the directors, contacted me about 2 months ago and said that the date got pushed back. But it's gonna be on the Travel Channel, and it's called These Woods Are Haunted, and my encounter will be on there. So I'm pretty excited about it. I know that when I saw Mike and Mike's encounter on These Woods Are Terror in the Woods, I was like, damn, they make that look really scary.
They did.
Yeah. And I imagine it was. Yeah. And I imagine it was really scary, because I know that, what I went through was probably the same exact motions that they went through. It was just a great experience when they had me do it. And I was honored that, they wanted to have me. Yeah.
I think that I'd have to check and make sure, but you may have been really close to the area where the David Paulides 411, missing 411. I think one of his popular stories is about a little boy that went missing. And I'm not positive, but I think it's in the same vicinity you were in at one of those overlooks.
Okay.
Which is, for him, I'm pretty sure he thinks that maybe a Bigfoot took this little boy. Very, very, one of his very popular stories that he talks about. The FBI had come in, and the Army, and they don't usually come in for missing people. So it was really weird that they showed up. But I think it's in the same area you were in, man. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. My encounter when I was a child happened in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's just really cool.
Hi, Jimmy. I'm Nikki.
Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Good.
Nice to meet you. First time I've heard your voice.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of let them take over for a while.
Sure.
But I had a couple of questions.
Now we need a lady's touch.
So this, how many encounters total have you had?
Just two.
Just the two?
Just two. As much as I would, and from my childhood encounter, it 1,000,000% happened. 100% was 5 feet away from both of them. But as an adult, even though it happened as a child, as an adult, I want it to happen again. Just for 1,000,000% validation, if that makes any sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense. Some people are like, I don't want to ever see it again. I do, you know. I don't think I will be in the same nerve state that I was in when I was a child. I was messed up for a few years after that. And you know, you guys can listen to it on Sasquatch Chronicles, or if you want me to tell it tonight, if you got the time, it's totally up to you guys. You know, like I said, I'm an open book.
So you consider yourself like a weekend warrior now because you know
No,
you've got this longing, or is it just
no,
chance happenings?
chance happenings. I have never gone out and looked. I've never gone out and looked. I've always thought it'd be cool. I was planning on going into like the southern, oh gosh, what was it called with Angela Ashton? Southern Georgia, or, you know, expedition thing. You know, I had planned on going with her, but then I ended up breaking a bone in my foot. So I actually didn't get to go on it. You know, no, I've never gone out in the woods and looked. Like I said, I'm not a guy that's supposed to be out in the woods. But I don't fear the woods. I don't fear the woods by any means. I'm a pretty fearless dude. But I just never have. You know, I got a family. You know, got 2 dogs, cat. You know, I've got other priorities.
Well, that's what we find happens is that a lot of people they're not Bigfooters. They're not anywhere associated with Bigfoot. And they're the ones who are having experiences while they're just on the road, camping with family, you know, totally not looking for them, and something happens. That is probably the biggest majority of the incidents that occur.
Yeah, definitely not a weekend. I mean, I went out when I was going to go on that expedition with Angela and her team. I went out and bought a, you know, like an all-weather sleeping bag. I went and bought this fancy tent. I mean, I wasn't holding anything back. I got a queen size air mattress for this 5-man tent. You know, if I was going to go spend the time in the woods, I was going to be comfortable in the woods. But you know, then I broke my foot. And so now I got all this camping gear, but has never been used. I set the tent up in the house once for the boys, but yeah, sleeping bag's never been opened. You know, I got the walking sticks and all that stuff. I went out and bought the hiking boots. Here in Florida, gosh, just a few months ago in Ocala, there's a dam by the Ocala National Forest, and there was a Bigfoot sighting by a community, not just one person looking out the window. It was by a community, a small community of, you know, just a handful of houses out in the woods, and it literally ran through everybody's yard. They called 911. They called 911. They've got the 911 recording on video. They got the police showing up at their house on video off their phone, video phoning them coming in to take the report. The channel there in the area they were running the story about it. And so what they did was they were going to run teasers. They were going to run just a few seconds of it at 5 o'clock, a little bit more of it at 7 o'clock, and then run the whole story at 10. And so they ran the teaser at 5 o'clock. They ran a little bit more of it at 7 o'clock, but it never aired at 10. And so that whole community area, you know, they were like waiting to see, you know, they wanted to see the hype. They wanted to see their little bitty incident that changed their lives on the news, and it never showed up. And so they got a hold of the reporter, and the reporter said, look, you know, we had every intention of running it. Somebody outside of our TV station, outside of our studio, had came in and talked to our directors or whatnot and told us that we cannot run this story. And it went dead. And that was in Ocala. And they started Ocala Bigfoot researchers. The guy's name is Charlie. And they're not a glory hog type research. Everything they do is for a good cause. Man, they're tied in with Ronald McDonald House. They sell T-shirts. They do tours. They do expeditions. All their money goes right back to the Ronald McDonald House, and their slogan is Bigfoot, Bigger Heart. So they're actually, because a couple of the people have had to, you know, unfortunately be a part of the Ronald McDonald House, sick kids in the hospital in their dying days and whatnot. Some people have lived in the Ronald McDonald House for years because they couldn't pay their bills because of they couldn't pay their house bills and because of the hospital bills they had to pay for to keep their kids alive. So, but this was a story that was in the news right there in the Ocala National Forest. They're out there. I know they're out there. I've seen them, and I've heard one just recently. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure what I heard was a Bigfoot, but I'm 99.9% sure because I didn't see it. That's what's telling me that I can't be 100%.
Well, if Bobo was here, Bobo, it was a Bigfoot. So.
Bobo would tell me that Bobo would say that laser light was left there by a Bigfoot.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, I was gonna ask you eventually because I saw the red lights on your face. I thought maybe the FBI was there with.
I've got star showers. You know, the Christmas lights that people usually have on their house.
Yeah.
I have them. They're on the inside of my pool enclosure, and it just looks like thousands of alien lightning bugs flying across my pool enclosure. So you can't get a good view of it because of the light, but it is really cool at nighttime. It's a pretty cool scene.
Yeah, that whole setup you have right there with the cover over the pool like that. I wish we did something like that when we used to have an in-ground pool years ago, but before we moved.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least you're down there, you can swim year round pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I think our water temperature's only gotten down to, 70 doesn't sound that bad, but it's a little bit cold when the water's 70. Just going along this fence here, I'll open up my side door that I would go out and see Fred at. There's my bushes. Can you guys see anything?
Yeah, we can see.
You ever open the door and Fred be right there waiting for you?
I
think he's muted.
He's muted. Like... You accidentally muted yourself.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, you're muted on your end. I don't know if I could unmute him. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I think that happened, but yeah. No, we're happy. We're happy with what we got. The boys wanted a pool. That was one of their insisted. But when you have a 6-year-old telling you got to have a pool, you got to live with that 6-year-old if you don't get the pool. But that was my encounter that happened there in Tennessee, and it's not all that far from me. It's 11 hours. I'm still trying to get this phone figured out, but I'm not. It's not somewhere I'm at all the time. And Daniel, I checked out some of your videos. You're not one of the people that scream everything's a Bigfoot. So that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you. Anybody can draw their own conclusions to what they think it is or what isn't. But it just, I wanted to share it with somebody. When I first told my story to Wes on Sasquatch Chronicles, I told him, I was like, Wes, your show is amazing because whether you know it or not, talking about it is therapy. It's therapy that money just can't pay. You could go to a therapist and talk about it, but they don't give a shit because they don't even care about the subject or whatnot. But when you're talking to somebody that has an interest, it's just going to listen. I felt 1,000,000% better. And it was the first time I ever had told my encounter to I had told my wife and my son, nobody else.
What was your wife's thoughts on everything that happened with you?
My wife knows that I'm not a bullshitter. She knows that I got a great sense of humor, and but I'm not just gonna make that up. Plus, she sees the transformation that my body physically goes through telling my encounter, that's not something that you can fake. The just the shakes from the insides out, the voice cutting out and trembling, literally just the nerves and the fear, is not something you can fake. And the fear that these things have imprinted on me is I don't understand it. I've almost died, a couple times in car crashes. I was in a cement dump truck, a semi-tandem dump truck. I was broadsided by another fully loaded semi and flipped over and ran over by the semi. I didn't get a scratch. I should have died. I can tell that story all day long, and I've got pictures to show of it. It doesn't bother me a single bit. I can talk about Bigfoot all day long. I can talk about Bigfoot, other encounters with people that they're Bigfoot. I can sit out here with my feet by Fred and not even be nervous, and I've had my feet 6 inches from his mouth, and he just smiles at me. But when I talk about my encounter, I get 2 lines in on my encounter, and my body reacts as if I'm there. It literally, the nerves and everything start breaking down, talking about it. And there's some kind of primal imprinted fear that they've imprinted, not in a woo-woo way, whatever that term is, but
Yeah.
as a child, seeing what I seen, like I said, it's a child fear, not an adult fear that I go through, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling what I felt as a child, not what I'm feeling now. I'm in that moment.
But many people go through that. I mean, look at Kerry Arnold's story from Bigfoot Odyssey. His first encounter, he stopped hunting. He left the woods. He didn't return to the woods for many months before
You
he
guys
felt.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Nikki.
before
I
he felt he
apologize.
could go back into the woods.
Do you guys want me to talk about my childhood encounter, or do you got a time limit?
Oh yeah. Oh
No,
no,
go
we
ahead.
could go on a little longer. I'm definitely curious about that.
Okay. Well, as I was telling you at the beginning, my mom moved around a ton. My father was a full-blooded Indian. I think it was Cherokee, but I'm not 100% sure. His family is based out of North Carolina. Their last names are Maynor. His name was Buddy Maynor, and his brother's name was Franklin, and his wife's name was Marianne. I mean, they were great people, but we lived in Illinois. It was not uncommon for me to be in 3 or 4 schools the same school year. My mom moved around like crazy. I felt like she was a gypsy or something. But we went from Illinois to North Carolina, straight from Illinois to North Carolina, and me and my 2 brothers were in the back of this El Camino the whole drive. And my stepfather had put in a trailer in the woods, cleared out some woods, had a trailer put in the woods. The day we arrived, that trailer had just got hooked up to the electricity. It didn't even have a front porch. There was no skirting on it. The axles of this trailer, and this was 40 years ago. I was 6 or 7 at the time. I'm 47 now. The axles of the trailer were still in the yard where they had tore it up. In our yard, what I remember was sand, because we couldn't even ride our bikes. Have you ever tried to ride a bike in the sand? It's not cool.
Oh yeah.
So our yard in the back was sand, but I remember the trees. I remember so many pine needles. I remember that they were pine trees, but the branches were up high. And maybe that was because when they put the trailers in, they had cut the branches off or whatnot. But I remember all the branches on the trees being high. For me, high as a kid. So as soon as we pulled up, if you guys aren't familiar with the way a trailer's set up, and you may not, but for people that are watching that may have not had the luxury of living in a trailer, when you're looking at the front of a trailer, there's a door, and the trailer hitch was to the right, and the other end of the trailer was to the left. When you walk in the trailer, you're walking into the living room / kitchen. You're literally kind of walking right in between the living room and the kitchen. To the right, if you go to the kitchen, was my mom and stepfather's bedroom that was at the end of the trailer where the hitch was. If you were to take a left and go down the hall up against the back wall, First door you come to was my sister's bedroom. Then the next door on the left was the bathroom, and then our bedroom was at the end of the trailer. So you had to walk straight into the door and open it. But just outside our bedroom door and the hallway on the right-hand side was the back door of the trailer. And we were there about 3, but I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just laying out the trailer. As soon as we got out of the El Camino, our feet were so glad to hit the ground, to stretch. Kids seeing this new wilderness that we're not used to seeing. And my stepfather looks over at us, and he said, "Stay out of the woods. There's a hairy man back there." And us being boys, my 2 older brothers were all 2 years apart. I was 6 or 7. My other brother was 8 or 9. My other brother was 10 or 11. We looked at each other, kind of giggled. We never really heard those 2 words put together, hairy man. So we kind of giggled. And he looked back at us and chuckled and said, "I told you. All right, I told you." And then went back on our merry way. It wasn't uncommon that my mother would be gone for days at a time, just leaving us there by ourselves. So we were used to it. And this certain night, we were there about 3 weeks. The certain night, it wasn't night yet. We were just chasing each other around the trailer, going clockwise. So the hitch is on the right of the trailer on one end. We're running around the front of the trailer to the other end and going around the backside and making like a circle, just chasing each other. By the time we ran around the front and got to the back of the trailer, the other end where our bedroom was, we heard this god-awful scream that sounded like a woman just getting torn apart. It was just a really high-pitched, ah! Just really loud, but sound like it came through a rock concert speakers. And I can get back to that scream a little bit later, because I got to find out that scream is identical to what is in the intro to Terror in the Woods. In the intro of Terror in the Woods, there's a spot where it talks about something in the woods, and there's wording, and then it just kind of fades for a second, and the background starts to get elongated, and then there's this woman scream. It sounds like a woman, ah, really loud, high-pitched screech, and in my mind, I almost got sick when I heard that. Not in my mind, but in my mind, I was thinking, holy shit, where did they get this recording? But my body felt nauseous. I felt weak. I felt like they were there and recorded that sound, and I wanted to know how they did it, but I knew it never in a million years would I have the opportunity to find out. But I did. By chance, right? So we stopped dead in our tracks right outside, at the end of the trailer, right outside our bedroom. And we huddled together. I don't even think we looked at each other. I think we all just huddled together and came in. But without saying a word, we walked towards where we thought we heard the scream. Just curiosity. But we went from chasing each other with sticks to we made a real tight formation. Okay, that's not normal. And so we got about 75 feet from the back of our trailer. Now we're on the opposite side of the trailer, and there was a crack in the trees. And when we got to the tree, as an adult, I was probably an arm's reach away from the tree. As a child, I couldn't have reached it, but as an adult, I could have reached out and touched this tree. But there was a crack in the tree, and when we looked up, if you can imagine standing next to a light pole or a flagpole, or I don't know if you guys can see this, and grabbing that flagpole with your arms fully extended and holding on to it, and then taking your feet, can you see, and putting it up against that flagpole with your arm fully extended, but now crotched down, but your arm's still fully extended, like you're hanging, holding on to the flagpole, but your feet are up against it. There was a black one up in the tree. When we looked up, it started to stand up. And when it stood up, when it started to stand up, it never got to fully stand up. That branch broke. And when that branch broke, it came down and landed with an adult arm reach from us. It landed right in front of us. The branch came crashing down. For some reason, in my mind, as a child, jumping off my bed as a child, I most of the time could barely stick the landing. A lot of the times, I'd end up falling all the way to the floor. So my mindset as a child was, when this thing fell, I was expecting to see the whole thing come down and fall to the ground, maybe be injured or dead. So my eyes focused down towards the ground. When it hit the ground, its legs were already bent, but from 15 feet up, its legs barely bent anymore. I mean, it barely bent. It was like me stepping off a curb. Is how it reacted from falling out of the tree. So I was focused on that. I looked down and I was focused on that to see the rest of it come crashing down, and be hurt or something. And it didn't. It just landed like me or you stepping off the curb.
Wow.
And
that's pretty incredible right there. I like that.
And then I looked up. I don't know what everybody else was looking at. I looked up, and when I looked up at it, it was all black. At the time, this was 40 years ago, I had nothing. I've never heard of Bigfoot. I've never heard of Sasquatch. I'd never seen the Patterson-Gimlin film or Boggy Creek or any of that shit. I didn't know what I was looking at. The only thing I could compare it to was something from the original Planet of the Apes. Is the only thing that I could compare it to. And that's what my mind was seeing, except it wasn't, that rubber mask. It was all black. Its skin was charcoal. Its hair was thick. Not like the big ones are. Its hair was thicker, and its face was all gray. There was no hair around its eyes. On the outside of his face, this was all skin, but it was gray. But as it came in towards the nose and the lips, it went from gray to speckled to flesh color around this area, around its nose and around its mouth. But when it landed, I looked at the knees, looked up at it. Its eyes were brown. It weren't black. Its eyes were dark brown. But on eye contact, it opened its eyes really, really wide, and I seen whites of the eyes. That was when we just turned around and hauled ass back to the trailer. And that was the day that I realized, this is what I tell everybody, that was the day that I realized if I was going to survive in this family, I need to be a faster runner, because my oldest brother beat me and my other brother back to the trailer. We got to the steps. By the time we got to, and the back steps wasn't a porch. My stepfather, we didn't have a porch back there. My stepfather stacked up cinder blocks to make steps to get up into the back porch. So it was like 4 steps worth of stacked cinder blocks just to get up. You know how high up trailers are. That bottom step of the top step of cinder blocks, we still had a good big step for kids to take up from that top block to get in the doorway. My older brother, he beat us there. He got in, he locked the door and locked us out and left us hanging. And I'm 1,000,000% sure he didn't do it so we could get eaten. I think it had everything to do with self-preservation, not thinking it through. But outside the back door, there was this old school freezer chest like you would see in the stores way back in the day. It had a clear lid, like a freezer chest lid, like a plexiglass lid. But if you've seen cars that are like 20 years old and their headlights are hazed over and you can't even see through them, that's how this plexiglass was. It was hazed over. You could not see inside it. But my brother, we just got there and we had nothing else to do. My other brother, he more or less threw me in there, and we got in there and shut the lid. But on the way running back to the trailer, as I'm running, I look back over my shoulder and turn around a little bit while I'm running. It was following us, but it wasn't chasing us. It wasn't stalking us. It was just meandering. It just taking just gradual steps. But when I look back as I'm running, it stopped dead in its tracks. It took that step and it stopped. And then when I turned back, I imagine it started taking the steps again. We got in that trunk, that freezer chest, and I'm screaming. My brother's got his hands over my face, trying to keep me from screaming. I can recall that freezer chest on the inside. It was rusted. It was musty. It was mildewy, and damn, it was hot. There was no air in it. There's no air in it at all. And he finally got, I don't know how he got control of me, but we were dead silent. I could hear my heartbeat, man. But it came up to the freezer chest. It came over to the freezer chest. It's directly on the outside. I didn't feel it touch the freezer chest, but we seen its silhouette through the lid. And it just kind of, I lived in a farm prior to that, and we had horses, and horses will release their air. It kind of sounds like a huff, like a kind of thing. That's what it did. It made a huff like that. It's just kind of did a couple of sways, and then we watched the silhouette disappear. We watched the outline of it disappear. We didn't hear it walk away. We just seen it disappear. It got to a point. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know what happened in North Carolina, right?
Correct.
Okay. What you recall the location of North Carolina? Like what?
I don't. I remember it being, I don't know, part of me wants to think that's 3.5 hours or so from the coast or something. I don't know. Somebody had mentioned Piedmont, but I don't know that to be the case. I was too young. I knew I was in North Carolina. That's all I knew. Like I said, we moved around so damn much that I just don't know. I can't give you a better answer. But it was so hot. It was so hot in there. Couldn't breathe. And finally, my brother just a big explosion of just busting open the freezer chest, and remember taking that big gasp of fresh air. And I remember as soon as that lid opened, my brother Bobby unlocked that door and just was yelling, "Get in, and I remember us scrambling out of that freezer chest and then getting inside, and then him locking the door.
Wow.
My mom was gone. This was in the evening. Sun was up, but it wasn't fully in the sky. It was in the trees. So it was, on its way down. It was later that evening. This is 40 years ago. There used to be a toy that was called a ghost gun. And it was like a gun flashlight, and you could take the caps off, and it would flash. It would shine different silhouettes and shapes of like a ghost, hence ghost gun. Or the beam would, the cap that would go on it would make a spider or a spider web. It's different silhouettes. And we were in the back bedroom, our bedroom, and in the dark. I don't know why. Doesn't make any damn sense after what we just went through. But it's nighttime now, and it's just us three boys, me and my other two brothers in the back bedroom. All the lights are off, and they're having a blast, scaring the hell out of me with this gun. It's flashing a light on the wall in the shape of a ghost. I should be happy that there's some kind of light in the room, but every time I see it, they scream just to hear me scream. It now becomes a game to scare me.
Yeah.
And they did it, and I guess I got too worked up and too scared. And then my oldest brother was like, "We'll just open up the curtains in our window, let the moonlight in." I remember it being a full moon at that time. I just remember it being bright. I remember being able to look out our bedroom and be able to see, right through the trees. And he opened the curtains. No moon came in, but it didn't stop them from scaring me. A few more seconds of shining the light on the wall and screaming at me. And then he went from, when you walk into our bedroom, you open up the door. When you open the door all the way, it'll hit the wall on the right-hand side, which is the back wall of the back of the trailer. And then if you take like 3 steps in, you'll hit the side of our bed. The headboard is to the right, the foot of the bed is to the left. So you're like walk right into the bed. So he shined it on the wall that's by the headboard, went to the corner, and it went across the window, open window. As he went across the open window, that light went across the eyes of a brown one. It was so big. It was so big. I only seen above the eyebrows and halfway down the chest. I didn't even get to see the nipples. I didn't get to see all the shoulders. I only saw, I'm trying to get me in here, I saw from here to here and from here to here. And it took up the whole window. There was nothing behind it. There was no moonlight coming from behind it. When that light went across its eyes, it did the same thing that the black one did. Its eyes were brown. There was no eye shine. I hear people talking about eye shine. I am 3.5, 4 feet from this thing, but it's on the other side of the wall, on the window. I'm right there. There is no eye shine. Its eyes were brown, but it made that same oh shit look with its eyes. Its eyes got really big, and I could see the whites of its eyes. I remember all of us screaming. I'm now on the opposite side of the bed, away from the door. I jumped over. I turned, jumped over our bed. I don't think I even touched it. As soon as my feet landed on the other side of the bed, closest to our door to go towards the hallway, as soon as my feet landed, one of those cinder blocks was thrown through the back of our door. And it made such damage that part of the cinder block had came through the door. I remember seeing chunks of concrete and some cinder block. And so we naturally screamed. We sat there for, I don't know how long, 10, 15 seconds. We have to get past this, but I didn't tell this part on Sasquatch Chronicles. I didn't tell this part on These Woods Are Haunted, because I don't know if it really happened or if in my mind I was afraid it was going to happen. I don't know if my mind wasn't envisioning this happening or if it really did happen. But I think we were so scared that something was going to reach in and try to grab us as we were going to run past it. That's why it took us so many seconds before we did run out. But we all just kind of ran and jumped over that opening, ran into the living room, and there's a bar that divides the kitchen and the living room up against the wall by the stove, and we hid between the couch, arm of the couch, and the bar up against the wall, turned all the lights on, but we hid in a spot where nothing could see us through any of the windows. It was a waiting game. We just stayed there and waited and waited and waited and waited until my mother and stepfather got home. The one that was at the back window, it was, at the time, as a kid, I called it brown. There's a million shades of brown. Brown's brown when you're a kid, but as an adult, the closest color I can compare it to is a cinnamon color. It was gigantic. I could see I don't know if you're familiar with, I'm sure you all are familiar with bodybuilders. They have this great big defined crease in their pec muscles. I remember seeing that at the top. The chest had finer hair, not mange, but it had less hair, so you could see more flesh in the chest, more skin. It also had an ash color skin to it, but it was a lighter gray than the black one. The black one had a dark charcoal gray kind of skin. This one had a dirty gray color skin. We didn't hear any noise with this encounter. I didn't hear any noises with like any grunts or anything from it. With the first one, we didn't smell any smell. You know, it was just there. And when we were waiting for my mom, my mother was, there was a lot of neglect. There was a lot of abuse, a lot of violence, a lot of abandonment, starvation. It was a very, 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 very tough childhood. And, you know, we just seen two monsters. But we were almost as scared to face mom when she came home, seeing that the back door was destroyed. And so when she came in, you know, we rushed them. We, you know, three boys going, monster at the back door, hairy man, hairy man, hairy man, you know. And then once she went back and looked at it, you know, we all got smacked around for a few minutes. And then, you know, finally my older brother just forcefully was like, it was not us. It was, you know, and we threw our stepfather under the bus. It was the hairy man, like Buddy said it was. And then, you know, and then her and him got to yelling back and forth and back and forth. And then he tried to smooth the fear, get the fear out of us by telling us that it was his nephew, our cousin by marriage, Franklin, dressed up in a monkey suit. But my cousin by marriage, Franklin, is only a year older than me. As a pretty fit guy now in my late 40s, cinder blocks aren't light now. As a 7 or 8 year old, there's just no way he's going to pick a cinder block up. And if he's able to get it off the ground, he's not going to have the force to barely make a dent in the door, let alone make it go through the door and tear up the door and have the door bashed in and part of that cinder block inside our hallway.
Right.
So, and if this encounter happened in my mother's and stepfather's room, I could buy into that a little bit, because that's the end where the hitch was. Somebody could have stood up on that hitch, but it would have to be a big somebody, way bigger than my cousin. It'd have to be a couple somebodies. And they'd have to be enormous. But it was at the opposite side. If you've ever been outside of a trailer in the older days, it's a pretty tall leap to get up just to the bottom of the window of a trailer. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was standing all the way up, but if it was standing all the way up, it had to be at least 8.5 feet. If it was standing all the way up at the top of the window, like I said, I didn't get to see all of its head. When looking back, you know, you try to, how in the hell did this thing go from standing outside our window to going around the corner, going to our back door, grabbing a cinder block and throwing it through our door in the same amount of time as it took me to jump over a bed? It's just almost impossible. Just almost impossible for something to be that fast. And, you know, looking back, you know, we try to think, you know, maybe the other one was there already. It was carrying one of the cinder blocks. Maybe mm-hmm. both of them were that. Maybe both of them were there. Yeah, I don't know. You know, looking back, you know, but the end of the encounter was after my mother and stepfather got through beating the hell out of each other in the kitchen. 45 minutes later, we had packed up all of our clothes in garbage bags and we left that place and went back to Illinois.
Oh, wow.
We had to drive past Franklin's house. If he really did that, which he didn't, it's not humanly possible, wouldn't you think that the whooping that we all just got and the whooping that my stepfather and mother gave each other, they'd stop off there first and give him a whooping just the same for tearing up the place. But never even slowed down. Years and years later, I think people process things. and try to rationalize things in a different way. And this is just me talking for me. When I have asked my brothers about it, they just said exactly what Buddy said and then changed the subject. It was just Franklin in a suit and changed the subject. But looking back, it's just not possible. Andre Giant is 7 foot tall, 7'5", 500 pounds. He still isn't tall enough to take up that whole window standing barefoot on the ground and at the end of a trailer from 40 years ago. Andre the Giant's a wrestler, if you're not sure who he is, Nikki, but I think you might know.
I knew.
And so
do you think your dad, he totally had his own encounter with the hairy man when he told you that? Or do you think he was just saying that because of legend?
I think he did. I mean, he said it so nonchalantly. It wasn't, I think he did. He just said it so nonchalantly. And it was like one of those things where we were stepchildren. He was, in the end, he was a good guy, but he could have gave two shits about any of us. He loved my mother, but not us. And I think it was one of those things where it was like, hey, I'm warning you now, stay out of the woods. There's a hairy man back there. And then we were like, laughing. And when he was like, all right, I told you. And that was it. That was the way he said it. It was like he could care less if we got eaten and we were lunch. He warned us. He did his job. I think so. How could he not? After when we moved back to Illinois, we moved right back into a trailer court in central Illinois, in Bloomington, Illinois. And this trailer court was on a property line. 20 feet behind the back of our trailer, which is where our bedroom was, there was a property line. The property line was only like 3 trees deep. On the other side of it, we could see through it. The other side of it was a cornfield. It was just to make a property line from the trailer court to the cornfield. So it wasn't even a forest. You could literally throw anything through it. It was only 3 trees deep.
Mm-hmm.
But every night for 3 years, I was looking and expecting something to come out of the woods and get me. It was pretty traumatizing for me. Like I said, my childhood really, really sucked. And so that stuff just got locked away. It got locked away for years and years and years. I mean, I knew I had an encounter, but all the other stuff that I had gone through as a child totally trumped that, at least, at that time. And it got locked away. And then when we lived in Georgia for 2 years, and my son and I, we were watching an episode, and Matt Moneymaker of Finding Bigfoot, Matt Moneymaker, they were talking about what they're called and where they call them. And then Matt Moneymaker said something along the lines of, over there by something in North Carolina, the Uwharrie National Forest, they call it the hairy man. I almost got sick.
Oh, gosh.
I almost got sick because I hadn't heard that word since. I haven't heard it since. And it opened up the emotions. It opened up the fear. It opened up things that I knew I had to encounter, but it opened up memories that I don't remember having. It was literally, it took me right back. It took me right back there. It was a floodgate of emotion, a floodgate of fear, questions, curiosity, and then it consumed me. Then it consumed me for like a year. I started getting online. I was listening to 2 or 3 different podcasts, and I just was not feeling it from any of the ones I had come across 2 or 3 years ago. And I only listened to 3 or 4, but they all seemed more self-gratifying than anything about the subject. And then I came across Sasquatch Chronicles, and then I got caught up in a matter of 3 weeks. I listened to every episode in a matter of 3 weeks.
That's a lot.
Because, I would go to work, and I was a workflow coordinator at State Farm in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I would go to work and be on the keyboard, and for 8.5 hours, I just listened to Sasquatch Chronicles. Just every day on my lunch, I'd go out, do my 200 push-ups, listen to Sasquatch Chronicles. On the way home, I lived 19 miles from where I live. I worked 19 miles from where I lived, but sometimes it took me an hour and a half to get there. Driving through Atlanta sucks bad. And so that's all I did was listen to Sasquatch Chronicles, and then finally I reached out to Wes, and it was therapy, talking to him and telling him about my encounter. In fact, we were on vacation. We were in Clearwater, Florida, 13 stories up in a condo with an amazing view of the ocean. And I was on a balcony telling him my encounter to Wes. But the fear is not. I can't explain the fear. I can't explain the terror, the trembling. I mean, I'm done with my encounter. I already feel relieved. I already feel relieved in my body and my voice. I feel refreshed. But back to the scream that this thing did that caught our attention. The first one, when I unexpectedly was reached out to from Terror in the Woods film crew. I had an option to ask him, and when I was done recording, I was like, "Look, man, I got to know where you guys came up with the scream. You've got to fill me in on how did you get this? Because that's exactly what I heard. It made me sick to my stomach. In fact, I recorded that scream on my TV, and I sent it to Wes, and I never heard back from him. But I sent it to Wes, and I said, "Man, is this what other people has described as what they've heard?" And it was that scream. I literally videotaped it and sent it to him on email on what I heard. And so I asked them, and he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What we did was we took what everybody told us and sounds that people had told us, and we weren't able to naturally come up with these sounds. So what they had done was they took some coyote calls, they amplified them, changed the tone of them, and then they had to distort them to get that sound." Which they said, we went through the gambit of animal noises to try to come up with what people were hearing. We ended up coming across some coyote noises, but we had to change their tone, we had to change their pitch, and we had to distort it to get the sound that the people were describing. And he's like, and I'm like, "Well, that is dead on what I heard." And he's like, "And that's where we got the sound from. People telling us, after we did it and came up with the sound and let people listen to it, it was kind of almost a unanimous, this is what we've heard." And so it was really amazing to find that part out.
Yeah, so far everything you've been sharing, I mean, I'm like, especially the sighting at behind the trailer. I mean, I'm almost like everything you're just visualizing what I'm hearing, and it's like I could feel it. You know what I mean? And another thing too, I want to interrupt. I know I don't know how long he was listening before we got him on here, but Jimmy Meat Baldmar Gallon Jr. from Texas. I want to give Baldmar an opportunity if he had anything. Yeah, if he wanted to share or ask anything. Baldmar, did you have anything for him?
I don't think he heard you.
Baldmar? Yeah, I heard a little bit.
I think there's yeah. Okay, I don't know. Did you have any questions or anything you wanted to ask?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, I think there's a delay in there.
I can hear you fine.
It's all good.
Yeah, because I'm hearing a little echo.
Is he on speaker? If he's on speaker, it's going to create a delay.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine. But if you're like on a speaker or a speakerphone, I think usually those cause delays or echoes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm on my laptop.
You're okay. Go ahead, Baldmar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just at my laptop right now. Um, I've been having a lot of encounters down in the area where that I was checking out that I actually was exploring. We have actually um, um, I've actually found a
Oh, there it is.
twist and with sash tree. I found a whole bunch of breaks in mesquite trees that I never actually noticed before. That was pretty. That was pretty fascinating. And then I started doing uh, actually making structures, and I actually started putting uh, bacon on these things, and
Making me
actually
hungry.
put a melon in the bottom, and yes, well, I came back this morning, well, actually this afternoon. Nothing touched that bacon. Nothing touched the melon. Uh, and so what I did was I actually started going into the woods a little bit more and actually found more structures in there. And I actually took photographs of them, which I never done before. Uh, and now I'm actually seeing uh, st- uh, structures where it's shaped like a circle and a D, and something hooked it up to it. And I don't know what animal does that. So I'm just kind of curious. And hopefully this weekend I'm going to have my scientists come up and photograph it a little bit and see what else we could find down there. I've been hearing tapping sounds. Uh, the very first time I found that twist, and I went up there and thought that I saw a footprint, and I started to I was about to start photographing it, and maybe like around 20, 30 feet behind me, I've actually heard a tree knock, two sticks hitting together. I'd probably jumped up like around 3 feet up in the air. And I turned around and said a couple of words that "f you" to him, and I knew that exactly what he was doing. So now I am, and now he got me so baffled now, and now I got to think outside the box on this one. There's, I mean, the activity out here with hogs have been so much. And what I normally do is I basically come to this area at a certain time every day, just about every day. And I do my calls to call cattle. And I'm thinking that he's actually in those woods just seeing what I'm doing and checking if I actually throw cues for these cows or maybe for a treat or something. But this thing up here really got me stunned now. So, so that's actually what I've been doing.
Cool. So you got some activity.
Yeah. Real quick, yeah, because at Baltimore, I don't know if you got to hear the when he was discussing his childhood, which took place out of North Carolina. One thing I wanted to ask about that, I
Right.
remember you were describing some. Yeah, he was describing some details. There's a part I'm trying to remember. I may have missed it, but if I was wondering, Jimmy, if you could recap on any facial features
Now,
that you saw.
Um, on the black one, the first one that I seen, my
Yeah,
stepfather,
that
he's a
one.
hundred percent right. He's
my
a hundred
stepfather,
percent right. I heard that he's 100% right. Whatever he described that features, he's 100% right.
Yeah,
the black one that I seen that did fell out of the tree. Um, the whole
yeah.
visual encounter of that one was between the time we looked up at the time it hit the ground, and the time I looked at its knees, looked up and looked at its eyes, took off running, and then glanced back over my shoulder, I probably got a total of 5 seconds of visual on it, but it was the most clear 5 seconds, that you can have. My stepfather was about, I think, 5'7". This thing was no bigger than 6 foot at the most. It had, if I had to give it a body shape, it was more of like an athletic swimmer type body build. It wasn't overly bulky. It wasn't chubby. It was slender, but an athletic, slender look. Its face, all of its skin was a dark charcoal. It was black. The hair was black. It was shiny, but and I say that it was thicker. It was much, much thicker than the hair that I had seen on the cinnamon colored one. But the skin that I seen was a dark charcoal gray. And in its face area, I remember seeing the dark charcoal gray. There was no hair on that. There, if you can see my face, this part had no hair. There was no hair in it, not on its cheeks, but this was all gray. And as it came in towards this area, the gray speckled into flesh color. It went into, a Caucasian skin color around its lips, and its lips were the only thing I had to compare as a child. I never, like I said, never heard of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, anything like that. Never seen the $6 Million Man thing. Never seen the Patterson Gimli or Boggy Creek, anything like that. The only thing I ever seen that I could compare it to was Planet of the Apes, and its lips were bubbled like the apes were on Planet of the Apes, but not as extreme. It wasn't way out there. It was they had a bubble to them, but it might have been just the way it was holding its face. But it wasn't bubbled huge like the Planet of the Apes or like apes or chimps, but it did have a bubble to its lips in this area. Its eyes were dark brown. It had whites to its eyes, and like I said, as a child, the main thing that caught my eyes, expected when I looked at the ground before it landed, I was expecting to see the whole thing collide and crash to the ground. But because my eyes were focused down there, I noticed that when it fell 15 feet, its knees were already in a bent position. But when it landed in sand, so there was no gigantic thud that I recall. I do remember hearing the sticks come crashing down right around it, the branch. But the knees, once it made impact, they barely bent. They didn't bend like it should have if you or I fell out of a tree or jumped out of a tree or even jumped off the top steps of a porch. The knees bent as if just like you or I were stepping off the sidewalk. The impact was that minute to it. The big one, the gigantic one at the window, like I said, it was a big bulky thing. And it, there's a lot of sketches out there of just a brown Sasquatch, just with the plain face, no facial expression. It didn't have when the light hits its eyes, it didn't. I don't remember seeing teeth. I don't even remember if its lips moved. I remember when the light went across its eyes, it just went. Its eyes, it went from brown to I could see the whites of his eyes. I was only able to see from here to here, and that was it. The rest of it took up the whole entire window. But it was cinnamon color.
Yeah.
The facial features were different. There was no bubbling to the lips. Long mouth, side to side. It sounds funny to say ear to ear, but I don't remember seeing ears, but the mouth went most of the way across. It was just a straight line mouth too. There was no happy or sad. It was just a straight slit line across, just straight across. But the eyes got bigger, and the forehead, the the around the nose when it did its eyes, the eyebrows went up, and the skin right here moved up when it opened its eyes really crap, like, oh crap. And the distinction was night and day. I don't have anything to go off of. I imagine, I'm just guessing, just like us do as we get older. I've changed a bit from being a kid to now, and I imagine, I'm just in theory, that they would as well. My puppies, I've had them since they were 8 weeks old, and they're now a year and a half. They don't look the same as they did when they're puppies. They've changed as well, and I'm just imagining that these things too, maybe as they get older, their structure changes. I don't know if that makes any sense or if you're following what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah.
But I after looking back, I kind of took it as the smaller one, when it screamed, it may have yelled for mom or dad. I don't know if it was male or female. It may have said, hey, we've got people here that aren't supposed to be here, and mom came to check it out, or dad came to check it out later that night.
So Jimmy, what do you think they are?
What do
What's
I think
your
they
feeling? Mm-hmm.
My feeling is they're their own species. I don't, and I know there's no wrong or right answer.
Mhm.
I just think they're their own species. I think they're so dialed into nature, and they've had to do what they've had to do to stay hidden for so long that they're an expert at it. I am not an expert at anything. I know that the encounters, I look at things differently. Most people, hunters, I've heard hunters, millions of hunters say, I've been out in these woods for 30 years and I ain't never seen anything. I don't believe them. But when you're out in the woods and you're hunting, most people that are out in the woods, what are they hunting? They're hunting deer, they're hunting bear, they're hunting turkey, they're hunting coyote, and you're looking on the ground in the daytime, right? I'm not a hunter,
Oh yeah.
but I need somebody to either agree or disagree with me, because I don't know. But my theory is you're hunting stuff that's on the ground in the daytime. My encounter with them in the daytime was in the trees. How do they know what guns are? If they can be perched up in a tree and see everything from down below, they've got to be great observers. In the daytime, I feel with all my heart, people that are going out in the fields and researching, stop looking on the ground so much and look up in the trees. They could be right above you and you just don't know it. I hear encounters of people talking about hearing it sound like they're just tearing down trees coming down a hill at them. If I am a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch and I am trying to get my eyes on prey and I'm in the wooded area, you're not going to see it that easy because of all the stuff in your way. You're going to have to climb trees and be able to look down and see things in a valley or at the bottom of the hills to get a beat on where the prey is, so you know where it's at. I feel a lot of these people that think they're just, and it's just my own theory, a lot of these people just think they're just running down the side of a hill, tearing trees up to all get out, could just be one way up in a tree tearing the shit out of branches trying to come down. And it sounds like they're coming down a hill because they're coming down a tree and they're breaking branches all along the way to get to the ground. Their meal's now down on the ground at nighttime. They got to get down to get to it. I feel like researchers should be looking up if they're out in the daytime just as much as they're looking down. I really do. And it's just, I am not a researcher. I've never done any researching, but just with my encounter as a child and my encounter 3 weeks ago in Tennessee, I don't know it to be true that it was in a tree, but I do know that it yelled exactly in my direction, and I feel like it seen me, but I could not see it. And the only way for it to see me was it had to be high up in a tree in order to see through all those woods to see me. But I don't, again, it's just my theory. I don't know that it seen me, but it yelled directly at me.
100%. Dude, I love your stories. I was hearing echoes and stuff like that, and I had to go back and listen to what you were saying. Dude, you're spot on. I mean, I have has stories where they were actually on top of tanks of oil tanks, looking down and looking at terrain, and just because it has advantage of the height. And if you're in the area, so he's pretty sure that he's looking at you for quite a distance. The facial features that you described about that Bigfoot was exactly what I saw. No hair, right up here, and the structure, the body structure that it had, it was just spot on. Uh, I mean, there's sometimes people, spend a lifetime just, seeing one, but the experience that you had as a young kid, wow, just totally. I mean, it just baffles the mind. And I'm really glad that you came up here, to go share your story. You know, um, you know, Me personally, I come up there and I go to the woods and I explore the woods and everything like that. Here for the past 2 weeks, the experience that I'm having down the creek, where I never feared of going down there by myself. But this time, I started hearing knocking and everything like that, and it's not. It's a fine line between fear and basically respecting it. Because again, you just never know when it's going to come out, and because I know the terrain pretty well, and I have to uh, try to find exactly if something happens to me, if I get chased out, I have to make sure that I go up because there's a lot of hills and a lot of creeks and everything. And if he don't want me there, he's going to let me know that he don't want me there. But again, your story that you just told, to me, I call that gold. So, and
Thank
thank
you.
you very much
Thank
for
you.
showing up.
You bet. I find it strange when because it wasn't until Dave asked me to go to at Expedition Bigfoot. David asked me to go share my encounter. I had never told it to anybody other than my wife and my son. So, and I know the emotion that I go through and the metamorphosis that my body goes through of the fear that gets pulled up from my childhood that goes through. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it. But the more I tell it, the not the fear and the emotion and the things that I go through don't change, but it's easier to deal with the more I talk about it. I still in the verge of tears and sometimes am in tears. When I was in Ocala and I did it, um, there were people talking about their encounters, and there was 100 people in the room, and it was almost like being in a classroom. There were 25 people talking over the person that was telling their encounter, um, and you bet we will. And then when I got up there, and first thing I said was, "You're not going to be hearing a story from an adult. You're going to be hearing a story and an encounter through a 6 or 7 year old's through eyes and emotions and body." And I got 2 minutes into my encounter, and you could hear a pin drop because everybody's seen what the effect had on me physically. Everybody's seen the trembling. Everybody's seen the tears, and you know, it gets easier to tell the story, um, and to let people hear my encounter, um, but it makes it easier. The more I tell it, it makes it easier for me to tell it without having a sense of stage fright, if that makes any sense. Just
Yeah.
because I'm a pretty fit older dude, and I don't really like crying in a bunch of front of people. But this encounter, reliving it, especially when I'm telling it in front of a group of people, there's a little bit of nerves added to it anyway. But when I was in Ocala, I was wiping tears off, and people in the room were also wiping tears off. They were genuinely feeling the fear that I was feeling, and
Right.
I thought that was incredible. But thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. Anybody out there that has any questions, or hit me up on Facebook or whatnot, or get me through Daniel or Nikki. I am a singer-songwriter. I'm not here to promote my music and whatnot, but on my page, Jimmy Barr, my profile picture's got a big black JB. I've got some songs out there if anybody wants to listen to some country tunes. that I put out there. You can find them on Amazon, iTunes, and YouTube, and all the other online stores and whatnot. But you know, being a singer and being able to be in front of people for 25 years is, you know, not that big of a deal. But clamming up like a baby in front of people, telling about my Bigfoot encounter, it's really tough to do, and it's really tough to get through it. But I
And
thank you.
it is for a lot of people, and I, you know, like I was watching, you know, some of the comments, you know, like you know, people were feeling your story as well, standing, you know. I know, I don't know if you know Tracy Arnold. He's out of Virginia here, and I know how he gets when he tells his stories, you know. And yeah, I'm very understanding, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I appreciate
you're
it.
definitely not alone. So don't feel that you're alone, because other people feel your story and feel you, and know where you're coming from. And oh, just for the
Yeah.
record too, yeah, as far as your music or anything, send me some links. You know, tag me in something that you have on Facebook or whatever. I'll be more than glad to share for you. I love promoting people, and you know, and
Yeah,
sharing
it's
other people's stuff when I get the opportunity.
yeah. Well, I'm not in it to. I mean, of course, yes, I'd love to tour the country, and sell out arenas, but I'm not. I wasn't here to promote it, but I don't really on my family page, because I have two different pages. I've got one where it's, you can see my profile picture. It's my two boys jumping in the pool. That's my family one. And then on my music page, it's me with my, you know, custom made $300 cowboy hat, one of a kind, um, and a guitar in the woods. And then my cover photo is just JB, my initials, Jimmy Barr, JIMMIEBARR. And so, you know, that's where I have, you know, all the likes and whatnot of Bigfoot stuff and Sasquatch stuff and, you know, groups and stuff. I don't have it much on my family stuff, because like I said, I don't tell it to people. I've got, you know, friends that I grew up with that don't know. You know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, you know, Jimmy. You know, even Daniel here and Nikki here. You know, and so many others. You know, we come up there and we tell our stories, and you know, we share our experiences. And what we are doing now in the Bigfoot community, that we are, you know, we're making people so aware about that this creature, this animal, this whatever that we want to call
There it
it,
is. Yeah.
is actually still around. You
Yeah.
know, and
I see.
so once you have people now being more aware
That's it.
and being more aware about their surroundings and everything, you know, so that's what. And I even passed out some flyers about our event that we had in a small little town in Berkeley, Texas, and about the Bigfoot forum that we have, and now they're actually selling Bigfoot burgers. And
Yeah.
again, it's and then so they just had a parade last weekend, and the Normanna Police, the Normanna Fire Department had a Bigfoot on their float.
Yeah. No.
But it's again, it's being you know, it's making sure that we let the people know and be aware that these things do exist and they're out there, and it happens to us.
On an ending note, I truly believe, and this is just me talking, but it's me being an observer. I truly believe that this is going to come out, and it's not going to be too long. I truly believe it's going to be released that they are out there, and it's not going to be too long. And the reason I say that is because we went through a blast a few years back of alien shows and alien invasion shows and space shows. And then, you know, earlier this year, late last year, the FBI released the Project Blue Book of the encounters with fighter pilots and stuff having to do with encounters of unidentified flying saucers and whatnot, right? Well, here in the last 2 years, we have had what now? 7 kids movies that are Bigfoot based movies.
Yep.
7. For I mean,
Well, yeah,
why all of a
yeah.
sudden? I feel like they're prepping the people that are going to be terrified and putting it out there, because there's so many things that they could be doing movies about, but all of a sudden there are a lot of Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, Abominable. You know, my father was a Bigfoot. There is Missing Link. All these
And
films
there's
that are from
beer.
Disney and Dream. There's beer. There's pizza. There's a Bigfoot pizza that you can go to Walmart and get.
Yeah.
You know, so I believe with all my heart because you know, I just feel like that Hollywood's been dialed in for a long time. Come on, man. Star Wars, one of the main characters is a hairy guy that looks just like freaking Bigfoot. Really? And then there's a planet of them. I mean, you know, Hollywood's been dialed in and connected for a bit. And I feel like because of the bombardment of the kids' movies and stuff, and there's a million of them on Amazon now, it's being peppered in. It's been sprinkled in. It's being introduced silently without people really observing, except the people that have had encounters or the people that are aware. I think the people that don't believe are getting prepped. It's my personal opinion. It's just in a theory. But if you think about it, the abundance of kids, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti movies that have come out in the last 2 years is insane, because prior to that, there hasn't been a Bigfoot, Sasquatch kid movie since, you know, Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas cartoon that's been around at Christmas for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's just my awareness of what's going on out there. I think everybody's time. I know you guys got to go. That's
Hey, Jimmy,
my final thing.
Okay, let me ask you just one more thing before you leave. I'm going to ask you one question. Would you want to see? Would you want to see? Would you want to see it again?
Yes, without a doubt. Because when I saw it as a child, it scared the hell out of me. And I don't think that I'm going to have the same fear as I did when I was a child. I know I'm not going to have the same fear as I'm going to have respect. I will have respect for it. But in my mind, even though I know what I saw, and 100%, 1,000,000% know that I saw two in the same evening, 5 feet away from both of them.
Wow.
I still want validation. I still want validation. That's why I want to see another one. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Absolutely. And I don't care if it's 5 feet away, if it's 10 feet away, 50 yards away. I don't want to see one from 100 yards away, because that gives me doubt.
Mm-hmm.
It could be misidentified from 100 yards away, unless it's in the middle of an open football field. Then there's no doubt. You know, and there's still a little bit of doubt. It could be a guy in a suit. Yeah, I want an encounter 15, 20 feet away. I want one that doesn't leave me it gives me 1,000,000% validation. Absolutely, I do. Most people are like, you're crazy. I might have a little bit of craziness in me, because I come out here and I hang out with an alligator sometimes. But yes.
Oh yeah, you missed that earlier, Baltimore.
I absolutely do.
God, dude.
Yeah,
if
you go on his Facebook page, you'll see the alligator.
Right. Yeah. But like I said, Jimmy, you know, I'm glad you came on. You know, sorry I missed the majority of it. But again, he goes, you know, thank you very much for showing up. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of people up there who loves your story. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're right, Hazel. I think so too. My mind will process it a lot different. I see things a lot different. Like I said, I'm more aware of this tree that has branches and leaves on it. But it's also got other things that shouldn't be on it, like a lizard and other things. Like I said, I look at things differently. I don't just see a tree. I see what doesn't belong in that tree. I see what doesn't belong in the lake. I'm able to pick things out across the lake on the banks, because it doesn't look like the rest of the bank. I think because of my first encounter as a child, it has made me more in tune, in depth, and connected with, and it's not a tree hugger thing. I hate that term. I feel more connected with animals. You know, I shouldn't be out here with a wild alligator. It shouldn't be coming up to me. They swim away from people. They don't swim to people. But this one comes up to me and just hangs out. I feel more connected and in tune and wired. And like I said, my mind processes things differently when I'm looking at stuff. I just don't see a tree. I see what's around the tree that don't belong there that I can pick out, you know, kind of thing. That's just that's the way I'm wired and whatnot. But exactly. I know you got to go, Daniel. Thank you for your time. Thank everybody else. Nikki, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
And there for a little bit, I thought Nikki was playing some music there. I thought she was kind of like giving us a closing music there. But
That's me.
Hey Jimmy,
That's
you
the
know that
song.
there's a. Yeah, did you know that there's a song? I want to say it was in the maybe the '70s. There's that was called I don't know. It was actually a Bigfoot song, and he goes, "Bigfoot's coming, going to get you, going to get you. Bigfoot's coming, so you better watch out. Lock your doors and lock your windows. Because Bigfoot's on the prowl."
Nope.
Has anybody heard that song?
I'm
I
not
Nope.
think
sure.
I've
I
never.
have.
Yeah,
I've never heard
Because
it.
I
yeah,
had recently posted a bunch of Bigfoot songs, old
yeah.
50s and 60s Bigfoot songs that had come out a long time ago, and I posted them on my group.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
great.
I think that was one of them.
Yeah.
The song that
Uh,
Nikki was playing was a song that I wrote about a conversations that I had with my father. Same. If any of you guys, does any of you have children?
Yeah.
yeah.
Nope.
Baltimore, what are you waiting on?
Huh?
I'm just picking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm
We
just
can
I
hear
hear
you.
saying.
you.
Do any of you guys have children?
Yeah. Both me
Yeah.
and Daniel do.
I'm a big
You
kid.
guys have probably had the same conversation that my father had with me and every other parents had with their children. My father and I sat down one day and had conversations, and this entire song called All For You was a conversation that my father had, and these were all words for words. And he told me, I grew up in a small town. There was nothing I could get away with. He found out about it before the sun went down.
That's true.
um,
That is true.
he told me as a child, I don't ever remember my father spanking me. My father would change his tone, and that scared the daylights out of me. And he would tell me, he's like, you may not like it now, and you're not going to understand, but one day you're going to have kids of your own, and then you'll know everything I did all for you. And that's the lyrics of the chorus. You may not like it now, and you may not understand, but believe me, son, when I was young, I was just like you. One day you'll be
Yeah.
grown, and you'll have one of your own, and then you'll know everything I did. It was all for you.
Yeah, it's great.
And then the bridge of my song is one of the best bridges I've wrote. It was the bridge is, one day I'll be gone, and you'll pass along all the lessons learned and the scars we've earned. Son, I hope I made you proud. I hope you see it now. It was all for you.
Yeah.
And it was
The discussion.
it's a feely song.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The talk and the discussion I had with my daughter one time was, "Shut the hell up! I'm trying to listen, watch TV."
Yeah. Right.
I just.
Yeah. I mean, I did leave out. I did leave out the line, "Get me a beer." I did leave out the line, "Get me a beer," because I heard that a lot. But yeah, but most of my songs have meaning to them. The song I wrote to my wife was about when I proposed to her, and it's amazing how one word can change your life. People are like, that doesn't really make sense. Well, have you ever asked somebody to marry them? Did they say yes? Did they say no? Whatever it was they said changed your life. And that's what the song is about. I asked my wife to marry her. I planned it all out. I had the words I was going to say. I got the ring. I bought the wrong ring signed. I screwed up my line, even rehearsed it all, and I screwed it all up. But she still said yes. And the song's called Yes. And the producers of the song said, man, if this song ever hits on the radio, it'll be the wedding song of the year. And it's a great song. It's a touchy feely song, a touchy song. It's got most of my songs have meaning. Look back, it didn't have any meaning. It was an accidental recording when we were kids. I was 17. We just started recording our rehearsals, and my guitar player started playing something, and I just started singing. I had no idea what I was singing. I was 17. This was 30 years ago.
Wow.
And it just stayed. We had to go back and listen to the recording 3 or 4 times. I sang it verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. I had no idea what I sang, but it wasn't lyrics that a 17-year-old should be singing. The first line is, every day I wake up, every day I look in the mirror, and this is what I see: a tired old, beat down, broken old man staring back at me. I'm 17. I shouldn't be saying that. But that's they're good songs. I think there are, but it's me being biased. But one of them brings me back to you. Was nominated for Modern Country Song of the Year by people in the music business. 24,000 songs were 24,000 songs were submitted, and mine was recognized. So
Excellent.
I feel that gave me some inspiration. So I think I even though I'm 47, I might just be scratching the surface. It just gives me more drive.
Absolutely. Hey, before we
Excellent.
go, Nikki, could you play a little bit more of his music before we go? Let just kind of let some of the others uh, people hear it.
One knee on the floor, hoping she says yes. One box in my hand, one life to live. 1 second away, oh this is it. Hoping she says yes to a life with me. Hoping she says yes to a family. Hoping we grow old with no regrets. I'm hoping she says yes.
Sounds
That's
better
awesome,
when you
though.
got a real. It sounds better when you got a real system. Everything sounds like crap on a speakerphone, but
Yeah.
great production. The guys
That,
at Tune Designer, they're on Facebook as well. They're out of Covington, Georgia. They are amazing. They did an amazing job with the songs, and they're perfect. There's just nothing wrong with them.
Cool.
Now this is being broadcast on Facebook Live, and will my YouTube channel get a strike for using
For using
royalty or
it.
loyalty for music, whatever?
Nope.
No.
Especially if you get it off.
Okay.
Especially if you get anything off of YouTube, there is no. I don't think there's anything against it. But
Okay.
no, you got. This is me. This is the owner of all the rights to all of it. You've got permission. There you got it.
There you
covered.
go. That's it. That's all you had to
You
say.
hear that, YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
YouTube, you could take it and shove it.
That-
No.
Amazon and iTunes
Awesome.
and Spotify and all those online stores. It's on there.
Awesome.
Well, hey, check this out. On Friday nights, I plan on doing a live tomorrow night, tomorrow evening around 9. Nick,
What?
are you working tomorrow night?
I think I'll be home by 7. So the 7, 8, 9 down. That's
7 your time?
That's 7 my time. So I mean I get off at
All right, so
6, so I should be home by 6:30. So yeah, you're good if you start at 9.
okay, 9. All right, let's do 9. Yeah, because usually I've been holding them off till 9:30 to kind of, because I know the way you get off
Get
from
home
the time
and
you
I'm
get
home.
off, because Nikki's 2 hours behind, and an hour behind, So
Yeah.
tomorrow night,
Lil,
9 p.m.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Lillian's
Right on.
moving on the
Okay.
19th, so I got to spend the last weekend with her and stuff, and so
Moving.
she's moving to New York.
What?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be here.
And he's going up there with her. He's going to be living just
You're
6,
gonna be
7
living
hours
in New
north of me.
York?
Yep, but we gotta get everything ready, put all our ducks in a row before I move up there and everything.
Oh.
But I'm, that's my game
You're go-
plan.
He's going to be staying in Trump Tower.
I need that job.
I'm joking, Baltimore, because Baltimore.
Everybody else
Bless
is
his
sitting at Trump Tower, right?
Are you gonna be in North New York?
You do
or-
not,
Hey, I'm gonna be at the same
Baltimore.
place that Brady's at.
Baltimore, you do not look Russian.
Cool.
So I'll be in Duncan, New York. So I'm going to be with the Reddings over there.
Ryan Reed,
Oh my
yeah.
God, you're gonna be right there with Ryan.
Oh yeah,
I
can you
hope-
imagine? Can you imagine the trouble that we could get into?
Oh no, yeah,
man.
I can. You guys are gonna get into a lot. I can already see it coming.
Yeah, and I'm
Wow.
definitely gonna go. I'm definitely
Like
going to get my
videos.
ghost hunting stuff.
Yeah, we're going to see field videos of him and Ryan out in the woods. He's going to have war paint on Ryan.
Well, Ryan's got
that's
that
gonna be
whole
awesome.
supernatural thing going on out there, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, well, guys,
So,
for those who are watching and tuning in, we will be live Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So,
Right on.
for the
Will
link,
this be back
I
on
usually
your?
set it up within an hour or so. Huh?
Right on. Hey, Daniel, will this be back and be able to be replayed on your Facebook page and whatnot. This episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. After this is after
Okay.
I
Oh,
hit the
definitely.
end broadcast, it'll be on the timeline. Or if you can't find it on my timeline,
Do you
just go
need
to my
some
YouTube
shorts?
channel. Yeah, my
Those
YouTube
ones
channel,
or
which is
those brown
Bigfoot
blue ones?
Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, Nikki's
Don't.
talking to her kids and she's not muted. So, uh, anyway,
Sorry.
okay. I just wanted to interrupt you just in case you said something about the pink panties.
Sorry.
I heard you say shorts. I didn't know if it was going to go anywhere else.
I
Anyway,
thought I hit the auto button, but I hit the video button.
yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, if you can't find it on here on my YouTube channel, which is Bigfoot Zone ECBRO, you can find it on there under the
Okay.
videos, archive videos. So, but yeah, it will be
Okay.
on my timeline, and plus it's also shared occasions as well. So yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Right on.
So everyone, thank you
Awesome.
guys very much. If go check out Jimmy Barr's Facebook channel, Facebook page, and probably here again if he's up for it, and maybe he'll have Fred with
Yeah.
him next time. And
Whoa.
Fred might be sitting
Gonna
across
do
his
a
lap next
live
time
chat with. Yeah,
with
or
the
in my
alligator.
pool, one or the other. That'll stuff. He may get in my pool. I'll have to
Yeah.
go in and get him too. I ain't gonna leave him in there.
No.
He's,
Well,
he's
yeah,
only about 7.
when
He's
he
only
was
about
talking
7
about
foot, but
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, he's only 7 foot now. Wait another 5-10 years. I'm sure he'll probably get close to doubling that.
yeah,
If you keep feeding
yeah,
him.
yeah. He's somebody's
Yeah.
out here feeding him because he's pretty tame. To me, he's tame. He doesn't come
Yeah.
up to my wife and my kids, but he comes to me.
Right.
Maybe I just look yummier.
Huh.
I don't know.
More meat on your bones, huh?
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, if you guys want to go check that out, Jimmy has a video of him calling the alligator out of the water, and the alligator literally comes up on his backyard within feet of him. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You guys go check that out.
Yeah, he's only about.
So,
I mean, because I got the phone so low to the grass, it looks like he's farther away, but he's only about 7 feet away from me. But I've had him.
wow.
I've had him about 6 inches from my feet before. He just comes up and just plops down and chills. There's no aggression on when he comes out. He comes out with a purpose. I think he thinks I want to feed him because I think he gets fed regularly. Honestly, I think he gets fed regularly. But I've seen a person at the other end of the lake dump a drawer full of look like bread at the the side of the lake.
Oh.
And when I fed him, I had bread in my hand, so I feel like he just might think I'm a food source, not one to eat, but maybe hand out.
One day, one of your kids will come out in the backyard, and you'll be in the water.
They'll have a sandwich in their
alligator.
hand.
Yeah, you'll be holding on to the alligator while the alligator's giving you a death roll, and one of your kids will be like, "Look, mommy, Daddy swimming with the alligator."
God.
We're just hugging it out. That's all. We're just hugging it out.
Oh my! All right, guys, it's been a really great show tonight. A real great interview. I love the information, and again, I really felt it all, and I really do appreciate you coming on to do this. And thank you for reaching out to me as well. I really do appreciate it.
You bet.
Sorry I wasn't able to
Thank
chat
you for
with
having me. No, I understand.
Yeah, I was on the road earlier when you messaged me, so yeah. So
yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah,
I'm not that important to drop the hat. I'm a patient person, and I'm like I said, I'm not easily offended. It's just that I reached out to probably 10 different groups and only had 2 contact me, and you were one of them. And so, I just figured whoever wanted to listen, I had something to share.
Awesome.
All righty. Good night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You bet. Nice meeting you guys.
Well, thank you very much.
Peace.
Everybody have a good night.
You bet. You too.
It still didn't end yet.